Welcome everybody to Season 1, Episode 6 of The Horizontal. Once again, I'm Mike Judici. We'll be talking about Judici's League 11, so on and so forth, the usual. Today's guest is going to be actually our newest member of the league, first year in the league, Alex House. Welcome.
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be here, and it's great to be in the league. Can't believe I snatched that final spot.
I know. Exciting. You have any opening thoughts about being in this new league?
A lot. I mean, it's just a whole new approach I have to take into this. The two QBs that blows my mind. I haven't even thought about how I'm going to adjust to that aspect of it. And then you got the 8-team league. I'm used to a 12-team, so that should make for a better draft at least. Should have a better team. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped with the whole format because it's nothing like I've seen.
Yeah, two quarterbacks is always the biggest adjustment. Have you ever done a PPR league before?
No, never done. Just the standard. Never done PPR.
Mm-hmm. And how many years have you done fantasy football around?
I think it's just been. This will be the fifth. I think I started my freshman year at URI. Nick gave me the invite, and I believe that was the start. So I'm pretty new. I know you guys are vets. Everybody in this league, I know for the most part, Nick had a lot of vets in his league that were going on almost a decade there. So yeah, I'm pretty new, and if you look back over the years, it'll show in my draft history. So I don't have not a lot of years under my belt.
Don't worry, if you're worried about your draft strategy, this is going to be a completely new one in this league.
True.
As we mentioned. Two quarterbacks. And I think you have last pick, you have 8th pick this year.
Mm-hmm. So I'll get the back-to-back.
How are you feeling about that?
I feel pretty good about it. If I can't decide between somebody, it definitely makes that easier. But the downside is with this quarterback craze, if you will. I don't know how I'm going to go about that. If I decide to go 8 and 9 without quarterback, I have no idea what you guys are going to do. You guys could jump all on it in the next what would it be, like 16 picks or so, and I'm left with like Kirk Cousins as my QB1, and I don't know. I don't know if that'll cut it. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, to give prior history, I think you might be still able to get a good quarterback by your third round. Just to mention it, last year we had 3 quarterbacks go in the second, and then one or two each go like in the third, fourth, and fifth. So you can I was able to get Drew Brees in the fifth, and I was able to get Mario. Well, not me personally, but like the 14th round had Matt Ryan, Mariota, and Winston all go in there.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as the quarterback crazes we've been talking about throughout the podcast, they won't all go at once because there's just so. As being in a PPR league, I think receivers are critical. That's the really big thing, is getting good receivers, because it's 3 spots that are starting plus the flex.
Right. I would agree. Yeah, again, I don't want to have to take a quarterback early, but I'm going into I don't know how you guys draft. I mean, I was with you a year, but I don't know for the most part how these guys draft outside of you and Nick. So for me, that'll be the challenge, anticipating. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, and that, especially being the newest one, it's either gets to a point you either set the trend or you just follow it, go along. Being at 8, that's going to be very interesting because you have the chance, if done correctly, to get 2 rather elite players, which is why a lot of people do like picking late in a smaller team league, because 12, you kind of miss out on the elite players, but 8, you're still kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
You get 8 and 9.
Very true. That's why I think I'm not concerned about 8 at all. I think I'm going to end up with a stud either way. Because I would think one of these guys is in that top 5 area is going to drop. I mean, when you talk about who do we got there? The big 3 backs are Bell, Johnson, Elliott. I might get lucky one of those falls, or I'll get maybe one of the receivers. Like, Julio or I don't know, maybe Mike Evans falls. So I'm not too worried about the eighth pick. It's more the ninth, and what I decide to do there. If I don't know what I'm gonna do. If I should let it be best available or have a position-based strategy. That's kind of bit me in the past. So I don't know.
A lot of times, actually, I've had a mix because I've seen the eighth pick go before, and eight I think is actually the most interesting pick in the entire draft, no matter what, in this league especially. Eight kind of like you set your tone for your team right in the first two picks. I've seen quarterback, receiver. I mean, I've seen two receivers. I mean, it really depends on the preference and like what you can potentially get in the future of the draft. It's like all about how you're feeling. Eight is definitely the most interesting pick, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm in a pivotal spot there. So I don't know. You're making it sound like I hold all the cards. I like this. I like can determine other teams' fate. You're making it sound like. I don't know.
Well, potentially, yeah. I mean, you or any like outs are close to like 6, 7, and 8, or like the in the early second round as well. If a quarterback or two are taken, that's definitely going to switch things up. People might start reaching on a certain position if there's an overload on receiver. It just depends. The last three picks of the first round and first three picks of the second round really decide how things are going to go. And it did last year.
I could see that. I could see trends definitely being established after that. If it go, you're right. I could definitely see that.
And we've talked about our last podcast with Nick. This is a just complete opposite league than his. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can ask for, like, if you told me to design two leagues that are different, this would be it.
You guys are polar opposites in terms of your setup. That's for sure. Yeah, it's night and day. I don't even know. I mean, it's completely different. That's why I don't even know how to go about it. I have to just wait until I'm there and see. But yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That might be your best bet. The beginner's luck. You've seen it happen before. Um. Now, also the fact that four teams just make the playoffs.
Yeah,
It's
that's general. That's very concerning because I've scraped by in Nick's league I've gotten 6 and 7 maybe one year, maybe 500 another year, getting that 8th spot. So that definitely concerns you that I'll need to get what 9 wins. You think to contend there for the top 4?
top four. So last year, 6 wins actually made the playoffs.
Okay,
Six,
so
6 and 8, because we play 14 games in a season. Because playoffs are just 2 weeks, because it's only 4 teams. But generally, 7 wins will, with some good points, 4 will help you get in. So you basically gotta go 500.
yeah, well, that's not an easy task coming from me, but generally though, people they seem to be satisfied though with how things go because at least in my experience, the league rules have sometimes been met with controversy, and I think Nick went into it last week's podcast, but I'm hoping that there's not that much. There's not a coup being attempted this one. I don't know.
Just like how scoring is completely opposite in his league and my league, the way things are run might be a little bit different as well.
No, I'm not trying to go after Nick's leadership style. I'm very satisfied with it. It's just, let's just say, over the years, even sometimes champions, they've disappeared from the league the next year. So
Well,
I know to just go with it, and I don't stand out of line. I make sure because some of these people disappear. I don't know where they are.
well, the funny part is the last 2 years we've actually lost the champion.
Okay, so it's similar. Okay.
That aspect, yes. That's not going to happen after this year. We finally signed some long-term deals. It should be okay.
Yeah, you locked in some guys. That's good.
Yeah, it just happened like, things change, distance and people challenge like people wanted to change like some aspects of the league like either keep one quarterback or like add two more teams, which I just strictly just didn't want. So it was like, okay, if you don't like this league, just find another one. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of excited about the. There's so many options you got. What you got? Like 8 bench players I saw,
Yep,
as
that's it.
opposed as opposed to I think 5 in Nick's league. I think it goes and no flex. So
Oh,
it's just
that's true.
it's so different. It's just unbelievable.
Now a big thing in this league that's different from like actually most any other leagues is there's no waivers. Are you a big waiver guy during the season when you play?
Uh, yeah, I usually tally a pretty high count. I'm usually in the top 2, if not 1, actually. The last couple of years, I've been right up there in the transaction count. I'm gonna say average about in the 20 to 25 range, type around there. Maybe I get close to 30. I don't know, around that range.
In a waiver format, that's actually a pretty good amount. I mean,
Yeah.
last year Brian went full savage mode with 59 transactions.
Did it help?
Well, it got into 6-8, but it didn't make the playoffs. We had 3 6-8 teams, and then 2 of them missed it.
I guess that's good though. It shows you're there to win. You don't want someone falling asleep at the wheel. Just going through the motions and forgetting to hit the waiver wire or adjust their team when they need to. So I like that. I like that he at least showed a will to win there.
Yeah, and this is actually going to be a big thing because this is going to be like the first year, basically the first year in a long time, where we're going to have every single team checking their lineup every single week, which is thing we've had like a problem where one or maybe two teams haven't checked in the past before in my league, but this is not going to happen. I feel like everyone's going to be on that waiver wire, just a free agent wire, and it's going to be very competitive.
Yeah, in Nick's league, we call that a stopper, a Matt stopper. There's usually always one of those in those leagues. So you're telling me we're not going to get that in this league. I like that. That's great.
Yep, it's should be all around competitive. Gonna be that's why we've been talking about it. It's gonna be the most like unique year. It's gonna be very competitive. We there's new guys in the league. This is so basically 6 out of the 8 players in this league are just gonna be in their second year in this league or less.
Okay.
Because we added 4 last year, and then we added you and Nick this year. Me and Nico are the only ones who've been here for the whole time. So as much as you think you don't know what you're gonna do, everyone else is basically in the same boat because it's a brand new league.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I feel confident in my ability to run my team. I just thought I don't know what to expect. That's my only thing. But yeah, I'm sure I'll be okay. We'll see what happens.
Now, when you get to the draft, I guess I'd like to know, do you bring some notes? Do you have like certain players in mind? You read in magazines. What's your style going into the draft?
Yeah, I like to read. I like to go to. I think I stick to mainly Yahoo, ESPN, and then I'll go to CBS Sports. I think those are the 3 I really go on. But yeah, last year I came in with a strategy that I was going to go position based. I don't think I'm going to go to this one with that. But last year I think that was kind of what I did. I decided that I would go. I think I wanted to get my receivers and running backs in the first 4 rounds. And then I think I wanted to go quarterback 5th round because I've had a bad history with quarterbacks. I pick Colin. I tend to. That's probably the worst thing. Going back to what you said about what I do in terms of research, that usually is what is my downfall. I tend to get trapped into the latest craze. It happened with Doug Martin my first year when I did the league. He was the big guy. I picked him second. At the overall second pick, I picked him second. That was not good. I traded him midway through the year. And then a couple years back, I took Kaepernick in the 2nd round. So there's been some disasters. So I've been changing up my style yearly because I've had to. Like I keep self-destructing, so I've kind of had to. But yeah, I just tend to use those three sites, and I probably won't do a position-based strategy this year. I'll probably go. We'll see what happens. I'll probably go best available, but I'll see what happens. But that's generally what I tend to do.
Yeah, it seemed like you were targeting guys based on trends. So like not people who've been like going over good for the like fast 5 years, but like on an upward trend, which I can definitely respect. I mean, sometimes it does work out like that. I was actually creeping on the draft the other day with Nick, and I saw that you had Adrian Peterson, Keenan Allen. No, Adrian Peterson, Le'Veon Bell, and Keenan Allen your first three picks, which theoretically sounds really good.
What was the second pick? It was Peterson, and who was it?
Le'Veon Bell you got with your second rounder.
That's right. I took a chance on him, and he had a great year, obviously, but it didn't matter on my team. But yeah, the Peterson, looking back, it wasn't even a thought for me. I think I was weighing Peterson and Gurley, I want to say, which I kind of ashamed about. That David Johnson did not even creep into my brain. I wrote off Johnson immediately, and Johnson in his prime versus an aging Peterson who had missed time the year before because of the suspension and all the controversy. I probably should have known better, but and then Keenan Allen, yeah. So hopefully that is something I definitely am going to try to amend. The injury, stay away from injury guys, and probably guys that are aging as well.
Yeah, especially just to switch to Nick's league real quick. If so, we draft August 5th, which is the Saturday, 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Does that do you think that changes up the style? So my draft would be August 26th, which is 21 days later, or 25th. It was 21 days later. Does that change your style up to see if there's any risky injuries? Like if you know a guy gets injured, I'm like, are you hesitant on him on August 5th compared to August 26th?
I do think it has an impact because training camp, it'll just start by then, right? Or
It has started.
has
It
started,
just started like today and yesterday.
so to draft before it's even in full swing, which I have never done before, I think that will cause me to really hesitate when looking at guys that I picked in the past, like Peterson, because they haven't even gone through it yet. Really, the grind of the preseason yet, which we know preseason injuries happen. So when dealing with injury-prone guys or that are risk, it definitely does change the risk factor. Guys that maybe 2 or 3 weeks later may seem like a medium to low risk, that might raise the risk a little bit. I do think that it does have an effect. And I'm not complaining, but I do think that's something to consider. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing we're forced to consider it now as opposed to later when it might not enter our minds.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. You definitely look at someone twice. I mean, even we had Devontae Booker went out today, out 6 to 8 weeks with a wrist injury. I mean, it's like random stuff like that. I mean, Booker could have definitely been like a sleeper in one of the middle late rounds, but now you can't even look at that right now.
No, and another thing is the Ezekiel Elliott. We don't really know what's going to happen with that. So does that enter in people's minds when they weigh his suspension? Or Le'Veon Bell, who seems to be clean right now, but he just seems like, aren't you just waiting for his annual 2-game suspension to just hit the airwaves? Don't you think that? That's what I'm waiting for. I don't know.
It's true. I mean, even when Josh Gordon used to play, I mean, if you drafted around this time, it's like, okay, well, yes, this guy's an elite talent, but do I take that risk for him to miss out on the whole year?
Yeah, definitely something to consider.
Yeah, I've actually never drafted this early as well. I think the earliest I ever drafted was like in the teens, but at least you had like a week or two of preseason over with.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be interesting. And then even like so you add that on to what my league now, and then you just have a completely different style. It's almost like another sport at some points.
Yeah, it's a lot to juggle. You're right. But it's only 2 leagues, so I'm not too worried about it. I've never done more than 2. So, I think that's a good number. I think that's the right number. to do 2 leagues.
Yeah, I would just stick to 2 as well. Um, a lot of people, what they like to do is either like join a bunch of leagues and be like, okay, one of them's gonna win and cash out. But like I kind of enjoy having it's all like more personal if I just have like
And,
2.
and that's what I'm really, stoked to be part of this league. It seems like a lot of guys have that. Like it's the sports comes first, and like for me, that's always what it's been. Whether I'm doing this or the NCAA bracket, like I really am not concerned with the money or anything. I'm concerned with the pride. I want to be the best. That's what it's about for me. I want to be number one. That's what it's competitive for me. The cashing out and doing like 15 different leagues just to cash out. That's where's the fun in that, you know?
Yeah, it almost turns into like gambling for like Las Vegas.
It's true, yeah.
Um, yeah, that's actually a good point. A lot of these guys are in it just to like to win it first. Um,
Which is great.
we've been talking about this league since like April, like which is crazy. I mean, we had 4 of us. Nick was included when we put him in the league. Like May 10th, we were like looking at the draft from last year. I mean, that was on May 10th, and the league starts in September.
There's nothing like it. I mean, yeah, you're right. You anticipate it in the spring. That it's just, yeah. For some people, it's year round. I mean, for me, it's the only. Yeah, I think of the major sports, because I've done baseball and basketball as well, and I won both of those on my first try when I did those. So for me, it's kind of my white whale, if you will. So for me, I definitely anticipate it because I'm still looking to complete that trifecta there with football. So yeah, I definitely look forward to it every year.
Oh, there's some extra motivation then for you.
There is. I'm trying to get the hat trick there.
Um, I don't know if you remember from last podcast, but actually Nick was saying that one of his bold prediction would be that either you or him would get the 1 seed.
I did, and then he texted me after that and said, "I can't believe I said that. We would win." That's a really bold prediction, and it is. But I mean, if you know your stuff, and there is definitely luck involved. So why not us? Why not? Why can't it be one of us?
And that's the uniqueness of this league because usually in the past we kind of have a trend of like who we think most likely is going to be good. Like we did have an idea that Nico and Jenko would be good last year, and they both went 11-3 because they're a little more like familiar with the league because they've done 2 quarterbacks before. So we kind of had an idea that they were going to be good. But this year, with people with more experience and then following the team constantly, I've been asking throughout the podcast, and we just don't have an idea who's gonna like carry it. Who's gonna carry the torch this year? It's like everyone has an even shot.
Which is great, It's good. It's good that there's nobody going to have a throwaway pick. That everybody seems to know what they're doing. But yeah, I'm interested to see if someone does something really out there. That's what I'm really looking to see. If someone just goes completely out of left field.
Another thing, I know. Speaking of like left field, going off that, like we'll go to the draft. As we talked about before the podcast, how like the trade rumors are already starting.
Yeah.
Have you traded a lot or any at all during your 5 years of playing?
You mean like trading picks like this, or just in general?
Just in general, like I guess we can just start with players.
Yeah, I think I've traded at least every year. I do 1 or 2, I think, a year. None of them have really worked out for me, but I think I traded for Tom Brady one year, which was big in my playoff push a couple of years ago. So yeah. So.
Oh, that's actually a big move. Brady's.
But
That's
not
always
too much. Usually it doesn't work out too well for me. But yeah, that's the only one that stands out.
Yep. That's always been a topic we've been talking about. We had a prediction. Basically, the general consensus is that this league might get more aggressive. Now that seeing that everyone's paying attention, that moves could be done right on the spot. Just how the competitive balance will be.
how does it work in terms of like draft day trades? Is there a lot of that? Is there a lot of chaos like that or no?
So the only draft day trade we've ever had was last year. So last year we did an online league with the computers, and so it was six of us in the room. So two of the owners weren't there because they couldn't make it, but six of us were there, and it was actually Josh, and I go to him. I'm like, I think I said I wanted to trade down, and he was interested in the player. So we just in like less than 2 minutes we made a negotiation. So basically, I picked for him his player, and then he would pick mine, and then we do the future rounds. So basically, what a draft day trade is, you have to trade basically like at least two picks, kind of just to balance it out. So you have to trade an equal amount of picks, so like it carries, because you have to add or drop players at the end.
It sounds like it'd be really. I don't know. That sounds like it must give you a headache. No, when you're juggling everything else. I don't know.
Well, this year's gonna be different now. It's gonna be an offline draft. If you've heard.
Yeah, I'm excited. My first live draft. Yeah.
This is the very first one for any of us. None of us have done this before.
It's exciting. Now the timing's going to be different, right? I think I heard that on your last one where you were saying that it's going to be 4.5 minutes between.
Yeah, that's the idea right now. We're gonna have like a vote on it of like what we want to do. But I would like to have a little bit of a limit, just like add a little more pressure to it.
Yeah, there's definitely part of it. That's definitely a big aspect of the draft.
But
against the time.
If like a trade's just about to happen and like we're getting close to that marker, we can maybe negotiate like maybe an extra minute or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think if trading picks is something someone is interested in, it will be a lot easier this year to do. So if you get approached to one, I wouldn't be hesitant because I will have a little more leeway than like the computer where it doesn't know, obviously. It just 2 minutes gone, 2 minutes gone. This one we can set the pace.
Yeah, and adjust accordingly, which is great.
Yeah. Have you ever drafted with the whole league there before?
No.
Because I know 12 teams is actually tough for you.
Yeah. I think the most we've gotten in a room together was 7 or maybe 8, something like that. We never get everybody in. But I think no one ever auto drafts, which is great.
Yeah, that's like a cardinal sin. We cannot have anyone auto drafting.
No, blasphemy. Why do it? Why do the league then?
Exactly. The best part of the fantasy football league is drafting.
Yeah, that's where it starts. People are smack talking each other's teams and all that, and you see how that ends up. Otherwise, where's the fun? That's what it's all about.
Completely agree. Do you let people get in your head when you're drafting compared if you're alone? Like, how do you feel like when you're surrounded by the whole league? Do you feel pressure when you're making that pick?
I would call myself an emotional drafter. I do. And if people are around that, I'm going to start. Yeah, I'm definitely reactive to other people's opinions, and that probably does. I wish I was more independent-minded, but I think the peer pressure, depending on the reaction of that pick, it might affect my pick going forward. But now that I've had a few years of doing this, I think I've been able to tune that out, and I think I've been able to get stronger. But I'll admit my weaknesses has been succumbing to public pressure. It has, but
you can't let it happen in this league because we know.
It's in check.
We very well know Nick is going to be on you.
Yeah, he'll try to play the mind games,
And I have another shouts to Jenko. He's going to be on you as well because he's literally on everyone. Don't fall into it. Don't let him get to you.
That's that. Why bother is in the past now. I'm going back to Titletown. I'm going to fix it.
Oh, that actually reminds me. You think of a team name for my league yet?
No, I'm still thinking. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still. I put mine as Julio, but I don't think I'm going to keep it like that.
I like it.
I don't know if I'm even picking them.
That's don't know. Yeah, I'll have a better idea when I have my team. We'll see.
Going back to the strategy, um, are you a pro Patriots guy? Picking guys?
Uh, no, no, not really. I mean, I'm not against it. I know, like Nick, he doesn't really like to have his own team or the rivals of that team. I know he's very anti-cowboy, very anti-patriot.
As he picked Gronk and Dez last year.
He had both, and which was weird, and it didn't really work out for him either.
It did not.
Like ever, but no, I mean, I'm not really seeking out. Like I don't see myself. I'm saying this now. We'll see what happens, but I don't see myself reaching for like Gillespie. I don't know. I just because he's a Patriot, I don't think I do that. I don't see it that way. There's Patriots that I'm high on, and there's Patriots that usually the running backs that I would prefer to stay away from.
And that's probably a good mindset to have. I mean, unless you're like we're talking like a what was the situation I was thinking of? Like a Bengals running back situation. Unless you have something like that's a curse like that.
Oof,
I mean, it's good to have an open mind.
Yeah, I've had my fair share of Gio and Jeremy Hill over the years. I think I've had enough. I don't know. I want to. You're right. I think it's best to maybe steer clear of the Cincinnati backfield. That might be for anyone's best interest. That might be, that might be the beginning of how you built a successful team. That might be the blueprint right there. Stay away from Cincy running backs.
I would love to have a general agreement in the league just to not draft Jeremy Hill because he is my most hated fantasy football player of all time. It's number one.
I really do have a love-hate with him, though, because you see, there's weeks where he'll have like 2 touchdowns and 120 yards, and then there's weeks where he doesn't do anything, where he's got 2 yards per carry. So I understand your frustration with Hill. It's just tough. You don't know what you're going to get from him or Gio. Brutal.
I know. Not like specifically towards this year, but like, do you usually have teams that like if you know they're on the up and coming that you'll target their players going into it? Because I know we didn't say Patriots, but like, just say like you thought the Falcons were gonna be good last year. Like, are you targeting like that quarterback receiver duo? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think it's good to go for offenses that are very pass heavy. I like to go for that, and I think that's how I landed on. I think I had Stafford last year. Maybe I didn't pick him, but I had him, and that was my mindset. Then I paired him up with Marvin Jones. So I tried to ride that because Jones was having a career year. So yeah, there are times where if I sense something's coming, I could try to incorporate that, but again, it hasn't worked out great for me. It didn't last year. I mean, I couldn't decide which quarterback or receiver combo I wanted. I had Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin, and then I had Stafford and Marvin Jones. And there were times where I chose one quarterback and the other receiver, and that's how you get to 3-9, I guess. That's how you get to a 3-9 record. Indecisiveness.
I can't believe, and then maybe that is the key, but like, I can't believe you went 3-9 when you had Doug Baldwin, Stafford, Le'Veon Bell, and what was that last receiver you said?
I drafted Keenan Allen, who only lasted a half, and then I picked up. I think I also drafted as my wide receiver 3 Marvin Jones.
Yeah. That's, I mean that, and a 12-team league. That's not bad at all.
I thought it could give me a shot, but what can you do?
In most cases, that would be a good decision. Though I guess we'll go to decisions. Are you one of those type that are sitting there at 12:50 and just switching back and forth on players in your lineup? If you're stuck on someone, do you go to other sources to seek? Well, how do you feel?
Yeah, see, being with Nick, I often we bounced ideas off each other, so I would do that with him, and I wouldn't do it. I tried not to do it at like 12:50 or like right before kickoff, but I would agonize Saturday late afternoons and evenings sometimes. That's how I spend my Saturday nights, I guess. tinkering with my fantasy lineup. And I would spend time doing that, and then throughout the week, maybe I'll bounce something off Nick and seek his counsel. And so yeah, I do think about it a lot. I'm not the type to just make a decision and stick with it, but by Sunday I am all set. But before that, no, it's a lot of agonizing and a lot of regrets after sometimes.
I mean, yeah, it's good. You might have a little bit more of that too, especially if there's no waivers. You can simply just pick guys back and forth whenever you want,
Oh,
and you're gonna have to be on it early. Oof.
oh,
It was funny last year. One of the guys in the league, Teach, he went to Germany for a whole year, and he was actually 6 hours ahead of us. So we were actually worried that he was gonna get like first dibs on transactions all the time.
oh, that could be frustrating. Oh, damn.
Luckily, he's coming back for the draft, so he'll be in the States permanently. But I was concerned.
Yeah, I can see that it's a problem. You get an insider tip while you guys are sleeping. Yeah,
It's 6 hours ahead. That's a big difference.
that's a big gap.
Oh, yeah. The non waiver wires. I sitting in class. I'm just looking at like Jamison Crowder and like Nate Washington, and I'm like, who am I picking up? Like when I have like a buy and an injury.
He's really interesting. I don't know. Crowder to me is a really interesting one after that breakout year last year.
Dude, I was talking to with someone else in the league too. I have no idea where he's gonna go. I think he should go like relatively high. I mean, I can't say he's a late round sleeper anymore. I think he's past that point as a prospect that he's actually like solidified himself as a good receiver.
I'd say so because look at that offense. I mean, Cousins throws all day, and if Jordan Reed, who doesn't have a good track record when it comes to staying on the field, goes down, then Crowder is really the guy. And if if you're not concerned about the Washington putting points on the board, which I'm not, because I certainly think Cousins is capable, then Crowder is he's got to be someone to look at. Yeah, you're right. I think he's proven himself.
Yeah, usually there's like five to seven guys in the NFL that like had like a quietly good season, and then you just don't know where they're gonna go the next year.
Hmm.
He's definitely one of them, and I've been agonizing looking at some of the player rankings. I just don't know what to do with him.
Uh, that's where it comes back to me. Struggling with those trends. Will these guys continue, or was that a fluke? But I think based on the way it's set up in Washington, I would think he'd have to be productive. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what other people think about him. I don't know.
I know, and it's like you go into like the other factors too, because obviously Washington had a mess of an offseason when it comes to the front office. It's like does coaching power like does that play into it now? It's like it's not even just on the field performance anymore.
Yeah, there's certain franchises where, like Cleveland, like you may think Pryor seems tempting, but that franchise, or no, where's Pryor now?
He's actually in Washington now, believe it or
Washington.
not.
Right, that's right. I forgot. I didn't think he was still in Cleveland. Yeah, but there's certain franchises where that definitely has to come into play. If it's a mess in the front office, do you really want to take a chance?
Yeah, man, it just there's just so many things to look at. Um, Especially in eight teams. It's like the difference I've seen from 8 to 12 is 8 is like you have a bunch of players you can choose from because just like it's an abundance when you hit those mid rounds. 12 teams when you hit the mid round is like okay, well I have to get this position because it just hits a bottom point after like a certain player.
Right. You try to hope that you could find maybe a rookie with some upside. Maybe that's what you hope. I think at that point in the draft. I don't know.
Yeah, there's really no low point in the 18 one until you get to like let's see, you're probably like your last 3 to 5 picks.
Yeah.
But like a mid round in the 12th can seem, especially in the standard, it's like, okay, well, what do I go from here?
Yeah, yeah. I definitely agree. I think I took Marvin Jones in the mid round last year. So, and he had a good year. But going into that, you're not feeling great, as opposed to this league, this 8-team league, where I don't know, what could you get in the mid round? Maybe like a Deshaun Jackson. You could still get somebody like him, maybe.
In the mid round for this one,
Yeah,
um,
or even higher than that.
you could probably get a little higher than that. I'm trying to think of like a good name that I can get in the mid rounds. You could probably get.
Probably not, right? Because he's the number one.
Who'd you say?
Hilton?
No, he might go like a little bit earlier than the mid. I was thinking like, um, God, what's his name? Drawing a blank. Oh, I'll give you a comparison last year actually. DeMarco Murray was like a type that went in the mid round last year.
Okay.
So like someone who's like his capability, like really good potential, but just has to prove himself. Like that's what we kind of see in the mid round.
Right, right. Okay, yeah. Well, that's solid. That's a solid type of player if you could get there.
Yeah, and 12 team is just like, okay, well, if I don't get this running back, I don't know where to go after this.
There's definitely more a sense of urgency. I could definitely say that. And you too, I'm sure. I mean,
Yeah, I was like, last year is my first time doing a 12 team one, and I was perplexed after, I think it was round 4. I got Thomas Rawls, and I was like, well, I don't see anyone good after this coming for running back. I'm like, I'm just going to have to, like you said before, pick the trend.
it is tough in a 12-team league.
Trends really become a bigger deal.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the players' value varies from the league. So, this is a good example. Danny Woodhead. So, he's the kind of guy that gets like 40 like receiving yards and like 20 rushing yards a game with like
Mm-hmm.
5 receptions. We'll call it around there. So,
Right.
in a PPR league, he gets 9 points from just receiving, and then he gets another 2 points from the rushing. So that's 11 points, which is actually like an okay game. But
Right.
like in next league, 40 points gets you like 1 bonus, but like the receptions don't get you anything, and then like the 20 yards only get you like a point.
I think, yeah, I think in that, I think in Nick's league that would be 2 points. Because I don't think the bonuses factor in until 60 yards, the first bonus. And that would be another 3 points. But so yeah, someone like that, like Woodhead, in the standard league, you wouldn't even want to take unless I think you're desperate, or if he's the starting back, if there's
And
an injury. Yeah.
and vice versa for someone like LeGarrette Blount in a standard league who was a touchdown machine
Mm-hmm.
and get you basically 6 points guaranteed a game, which is not bad just from like no rushing yards
Right.
compared to like my league where yeah the touchdowns are great, but like if you have someone like a Devontae Freeman that's getting like eight no excuse me like Darren Sproles that gets you like 8 catches a game, I mean he's gonna have the more value where he wouldn't in Nick's league.
Right. Which reinforces the value, which was Bell and Johnson, which probably would already be top 5. Yeah, definitely would be top 5 in a standard league. So that had me wondering, in fact, if someone would take a chance and have one of those guys one. I mean, I know how good Antonio Brown is, obviously, and it seems to be that's the consensus that he'll go one. But
That's what the reports are saying.
and I buy into him. I mean, it's hard to argue with that, but when you see these multi-purpose backs that are in their prime, like Bell and Johnson, I think that is tempting. Um, and that makes me curious on when Nick's going to do it too, because assuming Brown is gone at 1, and if he does decide to lean in running back instead of go, I guess, Beckham at 2, that would be tough for him to choose between Johnson and Bell. I don't know.
Yeah, in a standard league that'd be the obvious choice to get one of those two. But in the PPR and especially three receivers, it kind of opens the board of what you want to do.
It does. There's a lot of options. I could see that.
It just like we just talked about. We gave some examples that the player's value just changes.
Hmm.
It really and we I think we mentioned on Brian's podcast that like everyone has their own like opinion on value on like the quarterback position. It's like in the standard league, you kind of have an idea where the quarterbacks are going to go. Everyone kind of just, waits for that area. It's like, okay, it's time to get one.
Hmm.
Here, you basically have people who rank them completely different just based on like some other small point factors that are included in this league compared to most. And they could go. We've actually seen a quarterback go as high as two.
Yeah, and that's why I think I'm in a really tough spot there because I don't expect a quarterback to go before I pick. I suppose it's possible, but and if I pass on one, that is going to be the dilemma I have to deal with because if I pass on one, I really don't know how other people are going to perceive the value of quarterbacks in this two QB system. So it will be something to definitely ponder.
It's possible, but not probable that one goes before you.
Hmm.
Um, Usually the first quarterback taken is like somewhere, maybe in the second round, in that area. Right around where you are, somewhere in that area. But that one year that I think Brady went to, I think that was the one year.
Not last year, right? Not the suspension year.
No, last year, um, we mentioned before that three quarterbacks got taken in a row in the second round. It went Rodgers, Cam Newton, and then Brady all went in the second round.
Yeah, I could see that those guys being grouped in together again because it seems like there seems to be more questions surrounding Luck every year. I don't know. His health just seems to be more and more of a concern.
Yeah, what's your opinion on Luck? Because I am like I've always been a huge Luck guy, and like always been on my board. But this year, it's just like it kind of I've seen some red flags.
There are, and I really like Luck too, and I tend to put blame on Pagano. I'm not very high on Pagano, so if Luck's struggling, I usually put my blame on the organization and Pagano. That's what I believe.
And I've heard that before as well because a lot of people say actually like scouts like inside the NFL that actually watch these guys in depth talk about how Luck's like progression as a quarterback, not just like not a passer, as a quarterback, like mindset and all has kind of regressed since his rookie year, which obviously should not happen. It's only supposed to go up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it,
Right.
his talent, obviously the talent's there, but it's not all that. It's like it's not all about the arm. It's about what you do in your brain, and people are concerned around the NFL. It's like, well, how's this guy being developed during practice? And Pagano could definitely be a reason for that.
He could. Maybe I'm too hard on the guy. I mean, as soon as he got there, they turned it around, but Luck got there as soon as he got there. So it's tough to evaluate him, I think, uh, until without Pagano. I thought they should have parted ways already. It didn't make much sense to me, but I don't know if it's the line. I don't. There's various factors. Sure, I'm sure coaching, maybe play calling does factor into that. The line certainly isn't doing him any favors. So all those are things to consider. But Peyton had similar, maybe not with the coaching. I mean, Dungy's considered a great, but Peyton Manning had similar issues, and he always seemed to, be able to have the production there, at least in the regular season, where, there were games last year with Luck which just made you scratch your head when he was healthy.
Yeah, Payne would always progress as a passer, as we just talked about with Luck that has not been able to do. Payne might not be set up with good defenses, but he was always able to compensate with his skills as a passer.
Right.
Luck has not been able to adapt to Ryan Grigson's moves as a GM to the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he built his defense is like small and athletic, but clearly that's just not the case. What you want for this NFL, and they've struggled, especially against guys like LeGarrette Blount, as we've seen. Jonas Gray got 200 yards against them, as we can recall.
Scary. Yeah. Yeah. You watch them lose games to the Jaguars, and that's just if you're at your 50%, if you bring in your C game, you should be able to get past Jacksonville and Houston at times. Yeah, and then you hear things like, oh, who was it? Someone said in the front office there in Indy said that we're spending all our money on luck. We don't have money to get other pieces. Right? Am I right on that?
I mean, he did get a very big contract. He's got to be over north of 25 million. While it is a lot on the cap, it's still not big enough to like you can't develop most parts of your team with either A, good drafting, which you get rookies at low salary, and B, quality veterans at like a discount price.
Right. I certainly don't agree with the claim. I'm pretty sure someone said that. Did they not? I think someone in Indy did say that.
Of course they would. They would just be
Yeah.
apologists.
Yeah. I don't know
Yeah,
what's going
but
on there. I don't know.
no, I've seen predictions of them actually coming in last in the division. I don't know if I agree with that, but we will see.
Yeah.
I guess I'll ask you another question for fantasy. Player, do you have a player like that stands out as like very underrated as you looked at the rankings? Underrated player?
No, not off the top of my head. I haven't seen the rankings in a little bit. It's been a couple weeks. I generally tend to think that Jordy Nelson is underrated, but I would guess that probably is not the case this year based on what he did last year.
I no, because I agree with you in a certain aspect that he's never talked about as like a first rounder receiver, first round talent, like early second round talent. He's always been like late second and early third. But I feel like there's a case that sometimes he could actually be taken in early second round, and like if you're struggling, like if you're in like a 10-12 team league, especially maybe not this one, but like if you're in one of those, taking Jordy Nelson that at that spot is not a bad move. It's a very safe move actually. I actually do agree he's a little underrated.
I think because you look at the offense, I mean, somebody's going to get him. Is it going to be Cobb? Is it going to be Adams? Was kind of the guy going into last year. He was the sleeper going into last year. So it's probably safe to maybe look at Green Bay for a place of sleepers.
Absolutely, and especially with Rodgers there, like Jordy should be higher. Like he is consistent when on the field. He had that one freak injury, but other than that, he's basically there and he's performing.
He bounced back great last year, so I'm curious to see how the rest of the league perceives him now. Now that he has a year of health under his belt.
He actually did go. I forgot who took him, but he actually did go rather early in our league. I think he went like second, late second, maybe early third. So someone did value him very high, coming off the injury. But in most cases, I do agree that he should possibly go a little higher. Do you have an overrated player? While we're on this.
Well, I think Blount is going to be overrated. I hope people understand that he's in Philly now. I really hope. I think people in this league are smart enough, but maybe in general on leagues all across, like ESPN and Yahoo, all that. I do think people are gonna overvalue Blount, and even I would say that even if he was still a Patriot, he was not going to put. Should he be higher than he was going into last year? Yes, but he definitely that is a freak thing. And again, he's got Carson Wentz leading the team down the field now, as opposed to Brady. And I hope people don't think because it's Wentz that he's going to factor more and that they'll lean more on the running game, because that's not. I'm pretty sure he didn't get the 4 yards a carry last year, even with the big breakout year. So.
Absolutely. We even see like in big games where like the AFC Championship against like a tough like a tough, bigger defenses like the Broncos. Um, he just struggles against mightily. He'll get like yards a carry, and he'll only carry the ball like 5 times. Against those bigger, more physical defenses. I mean, listen, you're playing Indiana when you have Blount, you start him like defense like
Absolutely.
that. But like most defenses are clearly not like that. So yeah, um, there's definitely going to be people who see, oh, the 18 touchdowns. You still got something left. Maybe Philly's going to utilize him inside the red zone. But they, I'm still trying to figure out the Eagles system they have going because McDermott. I'm still unsure what he's doing. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't think he's going to be. Well, I know he won't be as good as last year, but as like a good running back that you start, like a running back two, I don't even know if I could see that. Maybe on a bye week or something.
You're right. I think he and the team as a whole will be an enigma in the first few weeks, so it will be tough to judge them. I do think so.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Another question: how much do you value bye weeks?
Yeah, that's another thing that I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on to not overload my players with the same bye week. I do think it's important because there's been times in the last couple of years where I've underestimated the impact it can have. Because I feel like my team as a whole is strong, and obviously there's other factors, injuries, under performing, that kind of stuff. So there's times where I really need that bye week, and it becomes big, and then I don't have it because all my players are on the same bye week. So I do think it's big. I do think it's something that everybody should be focusing on. But obviously, if you've got a chance to get a really premium player, you gotta take it and throw that to the caution to the wind. But
Yeah,
it's more an issue in the middle rounds, probably.
and I think that's the mindset a lot of people have. I think my league it's more important than Knicks, just because the amount of teams that make the playoffs. Because you kind of have to like, you got to be good, basically throughout the whole year. In mine, at least like consistent, like staying near 500. Just because only 4 teams make the playoffs. At least in Knicks, 75% of the teams make the playoffs. So if you think you can get a really good talent, but like sacrifice a week, you're willing to like lose a week where it's not as important as it would be in like the other one, just because of the amount of teams that make the playoffs. Just simply on that.
Right. I would say yours kind of more mirrors the actual regular season in the NFL, like in terms of importance from a week to week basis. Uh,
Yeah, just because of the amount of teams that make the playoffs, that's basically what it goes by. Because 50 to 75%, that's the difference. That's 25%.
right. I mean, there's no divisions. We got a pennant race feel in yours, which is great. I'm excited for that, but it definitely makes things. It's less room to make a mistake, obviously.
Yeah, and the factor that like a tiebreaker, which basically happens every single year for the fourth spot, it goes by most points.
Right.
Whereas in Knicks League, it would go from head to head matchup, as we found out last time. So yeah, it comes down even to the final details. There's something different. Um,
That's good. No, I'm fine with systems. Yeah, either way.
all right. I guess I'll ask you for a bold prediction on this year. You have one?
I will say I don't really have a strong grasp of the landscape of the league yet, so I'll just this might be out there. I don't know. I'll say I don't know. I was gonna say maybe somebody goes undefeated, but that won't be. Let's not. I'm not gonna go there. I'll say someone goes 12-2. I think. I mean, have you had powerhouses like that before? Like
So
someone
the
really
only
dominant.
we had one 12-2 team ever,
Okay.
and that was me actually. Believe it or
I
not.
don't feel bold about that then. Okay.
So we had two 11-3 teams last year, and then we had 2013. I went 12-2. But I lost. I ended up losing the finals. But so I ended up being 13-2 going into the finals, and then losing. But yeah, that's happened once. You kind of
Okay.
see 10, 11 teams get the top spot, but like 12-2 is definitely not out of reach. It definitely very well could happen. So that's a good
Okay,
prediction.
I'll stick with that then.
Yeah, that's actually a very good prediction. I could definitely see that. If someone like injury bug hits everyone else besides that, like it would take a lot of luck though.
Yeah, of course. But,
I think we can hit to the last part of the segment. I guess we can talk about something hot in the sports world, and I think we mentioned before that we want to talk about Kyrie Irving. You have any thoughts on that?
yeah, I just, I can't believe it. It came kind of out of nowhere. Not kind
Shocker.
of. Yeah, absolute stunner. Um, and just seeing it, like initially, I was like, all right, so LeBron and Kyrie, they're having trouble getting along. That's a first for me in terms of superstars with LeBron. It seems like everybody wants to play with them, but he's won a title. Maybe he wants to go out on his own now. But if I'm Cleveland, I really, what does he have left on his contract? 2 years?
Yeah, he does have two.
I don't think you don't want to do the George thing, obviously, and wait until there's really no value at all. But I don't know if you want to substitute Kyrie for Derrick Rose this year. I don't know if that's what you really want to do. I try to get through to him, but as the days pass, it seems like there's really no returning. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder how bad it actually is because I don't believe all the hype that usually goes into it. There's the truth, and then there's what the media tells you when it comes to, like stuff like that, because you kind of hear from both camps. Um,
Right.
I think he's gonna stay, and the more I'm seeing this, the more I believe that LeBron's actually gonna leave after next year.
And if that's the case, like, wouldn't if that's the general feeling? I mean, you're obviously not going to admit that if you're Cleveland, but since that seems to be having some traction right now, wouldn't you say, Kyrie, wait till this year? LeBron might leave, and Cleveland might get to be your team all over again. So that's what I'm wondering.
That's a very real possibility, and I don't think his hatred, wherever it is, I don't think it's actually against the Cavaliers. I haven't heard anything against ownership. So
Right.
like theoretically, if LeBron does leave, um, does Kyrie gain enough traction to get some players in Cleveland and stay? I don't know. If he's willing to go to the Knicks, clearly he just wants a team on his own. And if LeBron leaves, he certainly will have that.
Clearly, he's not in his right mind. If he wants to go to the Knicks, I don't hear a lot of young stars craving dysfunction. But maybe Kyrie is the exception. I don't know, but I mean, the guy does think the Earth is flat. So
Oh, that's right. He came out with that.
if you think the Earth is flat, I guess you would think the Knicks are a tempting place to play.
That makes complete sense.
The funny thing is that the Knicks fans, that's the funny part of this whole thing for me, is the Knicks fans' reaction. Well, when they were rebuilding, they're like, no, when are we going to get some star power? We've been doing this for a long time now. Let's get some stars. Now, when Kyrie, a star, actually says they want to go play for you, they're like, we got a good thing right now. Let's see what we have here. Let's rebuild and let's get the young star later. So if that's not enough for Kyrie to like slap himself a little bit and say, "What am I thinking doing this? I don't know what is." Because just look around you. Come on.
I don't even know. Like usually, Kyrie's weird in the fact I can't even get a good trade value of him. Like, what would a team give up per se for him? I can't even think of a value where I could think of it like for like a Paul George like near the end of his deal. This is a unique situation.
Right. I mean, I know that they weren't listed as one of his four teams that he said, but Phoenix seems to be a hot team right now in the mix. Would Bledsoe and Jackson would you be good with that if you're the Cavs?
The thing is, like, Kyrie going to Cleveland would fit like a glove. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
because they finally have like a guard that's actually like works for them because they've had such terrible guard play for the past couple of years, which is why they've been bottom 4 team for the past like 5 years.
Right.
Kyrie was definitely established that, but for Phoenix, the return. I don't know. Do you give up like a Dragan Bender? And like, do they think he has potential? Like one of those big men, Chris Bender. Like, does someone have potential there that Cleveland would be interested in? I don't know. You would have to give
Yeah,
an unprotected pick. You would have
true.
to.
Yeah, you'd have to do that. That's a given. Someone looking on the outside, I was weary of Bender and Chris right from the start. So if Cleveland is sharing the same belief, then that wouldn't be enough. Maybe even with the pick, maybe you would need. I don't know how people feel about Bender. He does fit the modern game, the mold of a modern player really well, but I'm not sure that is enough compensation for a player like Kyrie.
I'm definitely not sold on Bender as a player. Chris though, I feel like has a little more potential. That's what the
Yeah,
stats were saying.
yeah.
I think he could work out. I think he would have to be one of the pieces that go.
If I'm them, I do try to keep Josh Jackson. I know as a Celtics fan, you're probably soured on him after the stunts he pulled leading up to the draft, but I do think the talent is definitely there. And there was a time where I think I called him the best player in this draft, and I still am back and forth between him and Tatum, but I'm not sure if for Kyrie, a guy I know is not going to want to stay long term, I'd want to part away with Josh Jackson.
No, you would have to do everything in your mind to keep Booker and Jackson there.
Mm.
You get that core there. I mean, I know the West is absolutely stacked. It's like the 1927 Yankees lineup.
It really is, right down to Minnesota now. Wow.
But you got to start somewhere. Phoenix without getting Kyrie, if they keep this team, I just see him as a bottom dweller yet again. They would
Yeah,
have to try again next draft.
they would, or they would have to hope that Booker continues to build and that Jackson, as a breakout, really impresses his rookie year. But Phoenix is just not an attractive place for people to play. They just don't want to go there. So, yeah, you're right. They are at an impasse.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Free agents going to Phoenix. Steve Nash was traded there, right? From
Yeah, that's
Dallas.
back a while, but I think so.
They had Jason Kidd as well, but he wasn't a free agent.
No.
Stoudemire was drafted. Booker was drafted. I mean, they've really never had, at least recently,
Yeah.
a
No
nice
one
free
comes to
agent
mind.
pickup.
No one comes to mind. So yeah, when you are a team like that, if you do have an opportunity to pounce on Kyrie, you might have to take it. But again, he doesn't really even want to go there. But
Yeah, I know.
when you demand a trade, I'm not sure how much can be too picky. When you just put an organization into upheaval in the middle of the summer.
Oh, NBA players, they will milk it as much as they can to get where they want.
Oh,
Um, I don't know what's gonna happen with that. Just like I don't know what's gonna happen in our league. I'm interested to see what both storylines entail.
yeah, unpredictable and chaos. That's what I like. Let's see what happens.
I like it. I like the adjectives for that. Alex, I thank you for coming on. I think this was a very good podcast. I think it was overdue.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to this year. I can't wait. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna expect, but I'm pumped.
And don't worry, we're gonna be doing some podcasts throughout the year as well during some middle of the week. Just I'll be calling the random person.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, sounds great.
I hope you'll be prepared for that.
I am. Just give me a ring. Hopefully I'll be more prepared than I was tonight. I'll be able to respond a little better.
Oh, it was a good night. And you can get this episode and any other episode on the Horizontal YouTube channel, which will be posted. Once again, this is season 1, episode 6 with Alex. We've now hit everyone in the league except Teach, who's in Germany, for guests and as an owners. I don't know what I'm gonna do for next week. If there is one next week, I'll keep you guys posted. But this is just basically the last one for the very long ones. We're gonna start turning to shorter segments as the season comes on, and we'll make a determination from there. This is Mike Judici. Thank you for listening to The Horizontal.